Stone is not just stone, it's your heart. Stone is you. Tell me, how should this fire burn you? Where should it burn you? This fire is yours. That's how it continues. There is a limit to how much gas can be released into the atmosphere. Let's assign this limit to countries and ban any excess. But when you say this, industrialized countries say, I won't sign such a thing, because they say you would restrict me. But you're poisoning all of us, aren't you? This system, the cosmic system, is God's cosmic system. The cosmos wasn't arranged according to your whims. It's not a system where you can act however you please. Because, as it says in Surah Ar-Rahman, and the earth he laid out for all creatures. God spread the earth out for all beings. That's how he did it. That system is not just for you, it's for all beings. Surah al-Baqarah, verse 74. The verse makes a comparison at a moment you wouldn't expect. Those who persist in denial. It says the hearts of people who do not want to believe are extremely hard, rock hard. They have no permeability at all. They don't listen. It says they are even harder than stone, but there are stones from which water gushes forth. There are stones that roll down out of fear of God. I said, oh my God. I mean, when I first encountered and read the verse like this. It's amazing how the verse talks about stone, which relates to our own hardness. When it comes to subtitles, did you turn to stone? Man, there's that famous stone ghazal we always talk about. It's perfect. How did that stone poem go? Stone is not just stone, it's your heart. Stone, tell me, how can this fire burn any part of you? It goes on like that, but stone is usually a symbol of hardness in a negative sense. But the Quran takes that, and in a totally unexpected way, gives it an emotional and grounds it. Similarly, when I read that, the first thing that comes to my mind is Einstein, when he talks about the universe and its elements. He calls it, in quotes, cosmic. There's a state he refers to as the cosmic religious feeling. Cosmic religious feeling. In other words, cosmological elements are used in a way that creates a religious feeling, a sense of awe, and he draws attention to that. Because, while we're on the subject, let's mention it right away. They ask Einstein, do you believe in God? Yes. He says, I believe in God, but not the God you believe in. So what do you mean? They ask. For example, there's a verse that says God created man in his own image in the Holy Book. For instance, he says, I don't have a belief in God like that. What is it? It's the law and the harmony in the universe, the order, the resonance, and the millions of parts, millions of universal, cosmic parts working together in harmony. A being that makes all these parts work together in harmony. And most of these are actually opposites of each other. What does that mean? There is heat. There is cold. There is what burns. And there is what freezes. In other words, within the cosmic elements, there are opposing forces. But all of these operate within a harmony, within an order. What I'm saying works so rationally. These are Einstein's words. It works so rationally, so orderly, that I say God does not play dice. There is no coincidence. Everything operates rationally, in his own time. What was it that the Danish physicist we know as Bohr objected to, and later on? There was a situation where a block formed against Einstein. Because quantum physics, well, it's different like that. Niels Bohr says we're not in a physical world where everything operates rationally, moves uniformly, and the relationship between cause and effect is highly predictable. That's what quantum physics tells us. So, a conflict arises there. It doesn't matter, but both of them, in their own way, are moving toward the idea of an order, a system that operates within the universe. That's what interests me there. They're what Einstein calls the cosmic religious feeling. It's used in the Quran in relation to these stones. It's not just about stones. It's Surah al-Ra'd, verse 13. The verse itself, Arad, means thunder. Surah al-Rahman 13. The name of the surah is the Surah of Thunder, Surah al-Ra'd. And in verse 13, while talking about thunder again, it uses an expression that really catches us off guard. It says, "We heard the thunder and we were struck with incredible terror." Right? Thunder is a very intense thunderclap. But it says it praises Allah. Thunder praises Allah. The word used for this praise is tasbih, which we translate as praise or glorify, and the word is tasbih, sabah. This word is used for all elements of existence, for the sun, for the wind, tasbih. What does that mean? It means joining in the flow of existence. There is only one being that resists this flow, this tasbih, in the Quran, the human being. The one who uses their will in the opposite direction of this flow. What does that mean? Think of it this way: the sun, the wind, all the natural phenomena you can think of. In the end, by supporting each other, by reinforcing one another, they form what we call the cosmos, a regular unity. Not cosmic chaos. If there is order present, we know that all its elements are, in some way, supporting each other. The Quran calls this mutual support and working together tasbih. Each one glorifies in its own language. So, what is it talking about now, about nature? Does nature have a nature of its own, a spirit? If you look at it, in the Greek tradition, physis means nature, psyche means soul. Remember in Latin, it means gene spirit. If you look at it, for example, Aristotle says that when a stone rolls, it has a purpose. Where does it go? It goes. He says it rolls so it can come to rest somewhere peacefully. Animism says that every being has a purpose and a spirituality within it. It's not talking about the soul that creates consciousness and awareness in humans as we know it. We know that, but that's not what this is. But within themselves, every being has a purpose. You can call it a community, especially the non-organic ones. Even if you call them inanimate objects, a role has been assigned to them. That is also a part of the being. In other words, it's clear in the opening sentence you mentioned from Surah al-Rahman, where humans are placed right at the center, as if everything revolves around them and everything around them is designed to serve them. It's been designed that way. This is called biophilic, meaning loving life, biophilia, loving the living world, loving the world of living things. A universe arranged in such a way that it allows life to continue. In this sense, biophilia is something understandable and true. Life has been arranged in a way that allows us to sustain our existence. The breath we take is taken and given out easily by our lungs. I mean, when we go up to 10,000 meters altitude, when we go higher, you have to use an oxygen tank. You can't breathe. So, you see, the conditions are favorable. We have water to drink. Everything is suitable. But everything around us has been made available to us. I can use it however I want. The Quran calls this teshir. In other words, it means it has been given for your use. It means it has been placed at your command. It doesn't mean take it and use it however you want. That's why we decided to set our topic title like this. In other words, ego. My ego against the human ego. It also has the right to be protected. That's why it is given an existence. An evaluation of existence and an attribution of being. By the Quran, would you look at one like a human being? That it cries. That water gushes out from within it, that the stone rolls away out of fear of God. That thunder glorifies God, that the wind and the sun glorify God. By saying that each one moves toward a purpose determined for it, it attributes to them a kind of anima, a vitality, a spirituality. This doesn't literally mean that a stone has a soul, but what it does mean is this. This system, the cosmic system, is God's. The cosmic system, the cosmos, is not arranged according to your whims. It's not a system where you can act on a whim, because it's mentioned in Surah Ar-Rahman. And the earth he laid out for all creatures. God spread out the earth for all beings. He laid it out that way. That system is not just for you, it's for all beings. So there is a network, a web, and you are just a part of that web. When we disrupt the web of life outside, it will eventually come back to affect us. We need to look at the ecosystem with that awareness.
We think that we own this ecosystem. We try to dominate by thinking we own the environment and nature, and we act as if all of nature exists to serve us, giving in to our egos, mistakenly. But on the other hand, in reality, this is something entrusted to us, and instead of dominating it, we should be looking after it as a trust. As we mentioned before, seeing it as something we need to protect and watch over as a trust will help sustain this cycle. Actually, I also see a bit of a connection here with parenting. Professor, when it comes to a child, how much authority should a parent have, how protective should they be, and how much should they safeguard what's entrusted to them? When making this distinction, we, as humans, should also see nature as something entrusted to us in the same way.
Correct trust. We need to act with the responsibility of being protectors and passing things on to those after us in a better condition than we received them. For example, the Prophet. There's this wonderful saying of the Prophet, says someone who is about to die. If you have a sapling, plant it. They should plant it in the ground. What's the point of this? It's about leaving a better life for those who come after you. Like, think about it, a 90-year-old man is still planting an apricot tree in his garden. I wonder if he will give me this apricot in 3 to 4 years because he wants to eat it? Is that why he does it? No, that's not it. It's because the feeling of immortality, of eternity, is embedded within people. This sense of eternity will continue on with those who come after me. What I have done is gone forever. He doesn't want it to end with him. So, you shouldn't disrupt something that's integrated into the structure. This term is used for the last 200 years. It's called the Anthropocene era. That is, the era where humans are at the center. In such an era, the ozone layer was torn, it broke apart. After that, ultraviolet rays couldn't be filtered. So, every year, over 10,000 people in Australia, which is the continent closest to the sun, die from malignant tumors called melanoma. This is the report given due to the sun's burning, scorching effect. Now, something similar happens with what is considered a blessing, rain. When it rains, it turns into a disaster. We did this with our own hands. It rains in the big cities where we live. But because we haven't left any soil to absorb it, because we've covered everything in concrete, the water just runs off. It collects in an underpass somewhere down the road and becomes a grave for people while they're still alive. Can you believe this? Or we build our homes in such places. You take the soil away with a landslide. You remove the soil, and then you become a victim of the landslide. They say you should learn to live with nature. Never try to fight it. That's a fundamental principle. Don't fight against nature. Live together with it. This means the following. You shouldn't build your house where an avalanche is going to come. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Don't build a house there. Avalanche comes, we die. Shouldn't happen. You shouldn't build your house on an earthquake fault line. It will release its own energy. It's a living thing. It's alive, and it will live its own way. So it's not about fighting. Living together and the ecosystem is beyond just being entrusted to us. We will protect it. It's true that it's entrusted to us. That's the point where we come in. But actually, calling it an entrustment is kind of like saying, You take good care of it. But no, if we just left it alone, it would actually take care of itself. I mean, we're the ones acting in ways that harm it. Seriously.
We say, let's protect nature, but who are we protecting it from? In the end, we're actually protecting it from ourselves.
We act with a sense of ownership, a feeling of possession, and unfortunately, we're paying the price for it. I mean, right now. There is enough land to easily feed and support the entire human race. But we are polluting the land so much. By using pesticides. We're poisoning it so much with insecticides, it's unbelievable. I mean, we all complain about our products. You read about so many of them being sent back from European customs, from Russian customs. The reason is pesticides. We've been doing this for years. For example, it's not biological control. Develop a species of insect there so it can fight against the other insects, a struggle within itself. But instead, we use chemicals so easily. This is a policy. In other words, the profit-making mechanism, the property mechanism, triggered a process that dominates nature. We've entered that process, but there's no way out of it. People are realizing that it's a dead end. Here, international organizations need to take initiative and make institutional decisions, going beyond individual complaints. Take the Kyoto Agreement, for example. Most countries are hesitant to sign it or do anything about it. There's a limit to how much gas you can release into the atmosphere. When it's suggested that countries should be given a limit and anything above that should be banned, industrialized countries say, I'm not signing something like that, because they say, you'd be restricting me. But you're poisoning all of us, aren't you? So, beyond these individual initiatives, we need to pay a little more attention. Look at the big risks for the future. From extreme heat in the summer to extreme cold in the winter. From all the shortages, the ones suffering are us. I mean, the effects. We see them directly. We see them firsthand. So, the awareness that the Quran gives us, that consciousness, that ecosystem is a living thing. Truly alive. I mean, there. Point one, there is biology, there is life. Respecting those living beings. That yours. Respect for yourself. That your life. Your future. That guarantee. It's a way to secure. Point one, this is one way. To create awareness. That's what is wanted here. And today, we wanted to draw attention to this in the context of Baqarah 74.
Teacher, we say that we should see nature as something entrusted to us. But in the modern era, there is also a perception that the more you dominate nature, the stronger you are. We see that dominating nature, using it as a source of power, and being able to use it for one's own purposes when needed is seen as a display of strength. But at the same time, nature has its own causality, its own process, it's something cyclical. Can this be seen as an intervention in that causality? How should we view this situation in the context of falling behind in domination or in relation to power?
That's right. I mean, in the modern era, this is a philosophy that becomes very clear with Francis Bacon's book Novum Organum, or New Logic. He says, I will not learn the truth from a written book or from what tradition has passed down to me, but directly from nature itself. Bacon says, I will study and learn from nature by examining it. To a certain extent, I'm saying to a certain extent. There is a reasonable side to it, learning something from external reality. I say external reality, and we already mentioned its name at the beginning. There is a causality that Einstein also very carefully called rational order. There are causes. You know what results those causes will produce. There is fire in front of you. You know that the nature of that fire is to burn. You have, say, some water in your hand, and you know, for example, what kind of aerodynamic properties water has, so you can float your ships. There is air, and you know that when you create certain physical conditions in the air, you can make an object fly. Therefore, it's not something that changes instantly, collapses, or is variable. On the contrary, it's the scientific approach where the relationship between causes and effects is established in a very precise way. This is where it comes from. Again, as Einstein put it, the reason why great scholars believe in God is the strength. and the power in that connection. In other words, there is such a being that keeps the relationship between causes and effects extremely solid. He says that it's from this foundation that we produce knowledge and make progress. Einstein. Just imagine, for example, if we miscalculated aerodynamics. We built a ship, got on board, and while traveling in the middle of the sea, suddenly the laws changed. We'd sink and be gone. No, the law continues. In the Quran, it says that Allah does not change the law He has set for anyone's whims. Not only does He not change the law, but He also doesn't allow anyone to try to change it. You will take care of her too. So, in this context, I will seek and obtain the truth from where Francis Bacon refers to in his Novum Organum. That's correct, but there's something else. The more you dominate nature, the more you reign in nature, the more you bring it under your control, the more it becomes a source of power and might for you. This has many negative aspects when it comes to nature. Later on, in the industry that would develop in England. This is something that happened in the British Isles of Europe. If you consider that industrialization started in England, you can see how nature was exploited not only in their own lands, but also in the lands they colonized. Just look, for God's sake, look at the forests, look at the state of the trees that were cut down. The entire ecosystem, for the sake of human profit, let's put that in quotes, what should we call it? I mean, certain. Production mechanisms treat nature as if it's just a part, a spare part, and this has triggered, let's say, something. There's a process that started. And right now, we are experiencing the most critical. We are experiencing the consequences. Right now, the ecosystem we're destroying. It's actually predicted and stated what kinds of problems it will cause in 100, 200, or 300 years, but unfortunately, no one is really listening. Unfortunately, the generations after us will face even more difficulties because of this. On this issue.
Unfortunately. That sounded like a hopeless ending, Professor.
But let's take precautions. The mind's job is to see the bad picture, to lay it out clearly. The will's job is to try to eliminate the bad things in that picture. Yes. We fulfilled the mind's duty. Hopefully, in the future, the will can do its part as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear viewers, we talked about the ecosystem sacrifice to the ego system. Today, Surah al-Baqarah 74. We talked about it in that context. See you in the next episode. Goodbye.